By the end of this video, you'll possess knowledge that most people are too afraid to use, even if they had it. It's about accessing a level of psychological power that makes people question their own strength when they're around you. This isn't about being mean or cruel. It's about tapping into your authentic dominance and letting just enough of it show to completely change how people perceive you. There's a reason why some people can terrify others without ever raising their voice or making a threat. They've learned to access something that exists in every human being but remains dormant in most people, their entire lives. What I'm about to reveal will show you how to wake up this sleeping power inside yourself, how to project an energy that makes people instinctively recognize you as someone they don't want to test. But accessing this power requires you to embrace aspects of your nature that you've been taught to fear. And I need to warn you, once you cross this line, you can never go back to being the person who gets overlooked. Why do people freeze when they sense something dangerous, even when nothing obvious is happening? You've felt this before. Someone walks into a room and everyone gets quiet, not because they're loud or aggressive, but because something in their presence makes your brain hit the emergency brake. This isn't coincidence, it's biology. Watch a lion before it attacks. It doesn't pace around, roaring and making noise. It becomes perfectly still, every muscle ready, but controlled, every breath measured. This stillness isn't relaxation, it's compressed power, waiting to explode. The gazelle knows death is near, not because the lion is moving, but because it's not moving in the right way. Here's the thing, most people get completely wrong about intimidation. They think you need to be loud, aggressive, or physically imposing. That's amateur stuff. Real predators don't waste energy on theatrics. They conserve every ounce of movement and channel it into pure readiness. When you see someone who truly understands power, they're not fidgeting, tapping their fingers, or shifting their weight. They're still, in a way that makes your nervous system pay attention. Your body betrays your mental state every second. Nervous energy broadcasts weakness, like a flashing neon sign. You bounce your leg under the table. You tap your pen during meetings. You shift from foot to foot when someone challenges you. Each movement tells everyone around you that you're uncomfortable, uncertain, and easy to push around. But predatory stillness works differently. It signals that you're exactly where you want to be, doing exactly what you plan to do. Think about this. When you hesitate before speaking, people hear uncertainty. When you pause deliberately, they hear control. The difference isn't in the silence itself, but in the energy behind it. Hesitation comes from doubt. Deliberate pauses come from choice. One makes people question your authority. The other makes them question their own. Research shows that humans can detect predatory body language within milliseconds of seeing someone. Your brain processes threat assessment faster than conscious thought. People feel something's different about you before they understand what they're feeling. Their subconscious picks up on microsignals that their conscious mind can't identify. This is why some people make others nervous without doing anything obviously threatening. Remember, your physical presence speaks before you ever open your mouth. Every gesture, every position, every micro-expression sends signals about your internal state. When you master predatory stillness, you're not pretending to be dangerous. You're accessing the part of yourself that genuinely doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Predators never show hesitation because doubt gets you killed in the wild. This same principle applies to human psychology. When you eliminate hesitation from your body language, people instinctively recognize you as someone who's made peace with their own power. But controlling your physical presence is just the foundation. What makes some people's voices instantly command respect, while others get ignored even when shouting? You know exactly what I'm talking about. That person who speaks quietly in meetings, but everyone stops to listen. Compare that to someone yelling at the top of their lungs and getting brushed off like background noise. The difference isn't volume, it's something much deeper. Your voice bypasses conscious thought and hits people at a primal level before someone even processes what you're saying. Their brain already decides whether you're worth listening to. This happens in milliseconds. Voice tonality triggers automatic recognition of authority. That goes back millions of years. Your vocal cords become a direct line to people's subconscious threat assessment system. Here's the truth that will surprise you. It's not about pitch or volume at all. Some of the most commanding voices belong to people who speak barely above a whisper. Think about leaders who never raise their voices, but somehow control entire rooms. They understand that vocal gravitas comes from certainty, not noise. When you speak from a place of absolute conviction, people hear authority, even if you're practically whispering. Research proves that specific tonality patterns make others question their own authority. When your voice drops slightly at the end of statements, instead of rising like a question, people interpret this as dominance. When you speak slowly, with deliberate pacing, their brains classify you as someone who doesn't need to rush or compete for attention. These patterns trigger instinctive respect responses that bypass rational thought completely. Now let's break down the difference between trying to sound tough and naturally projecting dominance. Tough guys force their voices lower and speak louder. This screams insecurity to anyone paying attention. Natural dominance sounds relaxed, but unmovable. Think about the difference between a growling dog and a resting lion. One is trying to convince you it's dangerous, the other doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. Pauses become weapons. When you understand vocal control, most people rush to fill silence because quiet makes them uncomfortable. But when you pause deliberately before responding, you create psychological pressure without saying a word. People start wondering what you're thinking. They begin questioning whether they said something wrong. Your silence makes them more invested in your eventual response. Vocal control also means matching your energy to your words. When you speak about serious topics with the same vocal intensity as casual conversation, people notice the mismatch. Your voice should carry the weight of what you're discussing. This doesn't mean getting emotional. It means letting your natural authority come through your vocal cords. The specific techniques that make voices carry weight all center around one principle: speak like someone who's already won, whatever game everyone else is playing. But vocal dominance only reaches its full potential when combined with how you position yourself physically in space. Why do some people make others step back? Just by walking into a room. You've seen this happen. Someone enters a space, and people automatically give them more room than they need. Not because they're physically large or acting aggressive, something about how they carry themselves claims territory before they even speak. This isn't magic, it's strategic use of space as a psychological weapon. Physical positioning creates immediate psychological advantage before any interaction begins. The moment you walk into a room, your brain calculates where to stand, how close to get to people, and what angle to position your body. These split-second decisions broadcast your internal state to everyone around you. Position yourself like someone who belongs there, and people treat you like you do. Position yourself like an outsider, and you become invisible. Here's the truth. Most people never realize you give away your power through unconscious positioning choices. Every single day, you stand too close to walls when talking to people. You position yourself where others can easily walk between you and the person you're talking to. You let people put physical barriers, like desks or tables, between you during important conversations. Each choice signals that you're not the most important person in the interaction. Territorial dominance works because humans are still animals, with animal instincts. When you control space, you control the frame of every interaction that happens in that space. Stand where you can see all entrances and exits. Position yourself so others have to turn their backs to doors when talking to you. Take the seat that gives you the best view of the room. These aren't accidents, they're strategic choices that put your subconscious at ease and make others slightly uncomfortable. Research on proxemics shows that physical positioning affects power dynamics in conversations more than most people realize. When you stand slightly closer than social norms suggest, People unconsciously classify you as more dominant. When you maintain this positioning, without backing down when they step back, you establish psychological superiority. But you have to calibrate this carefully. Too close looks unstable. The right distance projects controlled danger. Specific positioning tactics give immediate psychological advantage in any situation. Enter rooms first, when possible. Walk through doorways like you own the building. Stand with your back to solid walls during important conversations. Keep your hands visible and relaxed at your sides. Face people directly instead of angling your body away. These micro-adjustments communicate that you're comfortable with confrontation and ready for whatever happens next. Physical positioning eliminates hesitation in high-pressure situations because your body language reinforces your mental state. When you position yourself strategically, your brain receives feedback that you're in control. This creates a positive loop where confident positioning makes you feel more confident, which improves your positioning even more. Most people freeze when confronted with someone who truly owns their space, because territorial dominance triggers ancient survival responses. Your positioning tells their subconscious that you're not someone to test. These techniques can be practiced safely while maintaining ethical boundaries. Here's the thing about practicing these techniques. Safely, you can cross every psychological boundary without breaking a single law or ethical rule. Start with predatory stillness during your next meeting. Stop fidgeting completely. Let your voice drop at the end of statements, instead of rising like questions. Position yourself where you can see all exits. These seem like small changes, but they trigger massive shifts in how people perceive you. Pick one technique and experiment with it today, in low-stakes situations. Once you access this dormant power that's been sleeping inside you, you can never go back to being the person who gets overlooked. Now, if you found this valuable, if you're ready to explore more ways to project power, influence others, and dominate without ever raising your voice, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next, because this is just the beginning. Welcome to a new version of yourself. And trust me, people will feel the difference. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay sharp.